Hi, everybody. This is Nick here. It's an exciting day, and Joe Gregory is joining me from Rethink Press, or I'm joining him, or so hopefully Joe will pop his camera on. Yeah,
Here I am.
there you
Hello,
are.
Nick. Hello, everybody.
And it's a very exciting day, isn't it, Joe? We
It's
have
really exciting.
this, don't
I've got mine. I've got mine too.
we? We have our books, and the adventure begins. It's lovely to see so many people on. So do pop in the chat where you're from in the world if you want to, and anything else like that. We're going to have Q&A later, and so it will be exciting to start. So Joe, you were going to introduce things, weren't you? I'm
Yeah, well, you've done a great intro. So I just want to say I'm absolutely thrilled that your book is out. And it's there's another exciting reason to be launching today and telling everybody, which is your book. It's a 300 odd page book. It's just 99p on Kindle today. So I'm going to pop a link in the chat. If you haven't already got it, if you want to get right into Nick's book immediately, if you haven't bought a copy yet, grab it for 99p because it's only going to last for a couple of days at that price. And then you can have it in both formats. I'd still encourage you to buy, as Nick's greedy publisher, I'm still going to encourage you to buy the paperback as well. But like, let's get internet access for 99p. So I've put that in the chat. So that's my first thing. That's me working as your publisher, trying to sell some books.
uh,
But I've got loads of questions for you, Nick. And hopefully, by asking those questions, people will get a real understanding of where you've come from, why
I'm
you've written this book, and the magic that's going to come from people getting this book.
Well, I'm hoping that it will give people the evidence and the confidence to do kind of what they do already, but even more so. But I'm looking at the chat here and I'm seeing so many familiar names. So it is lovely. It is really, really nice to do something and then, feel that the people that have known you for a while want to come and support you. I can see people that work with me at Neuroeconomics Foundation. I can see people I've worked with yeah, more recently. The chat's filling up so much. I saw people from the States, from Brazil, from lots of places, the Netherlands. So it's brilliant, brilliant that so many people are around. Yeah.
And just because that chat is filling up, I've repeated the links. So if anybody missed them, there's an opportunity. You'll see them every now and then. I'll probably pop them throughout as well, just to make sure you've all got a copy of Nick's book. So, Nick, if you're okay for me to jump into that, is
Yeah,
there anything else you want to say before we jump into me asking you
yeah,
some
yeah.
questions? We spoke before your book was finished, and I remember talking about the book idea and what you were going to do. I think this is really interesting. Happiness is a serious business.
Yes.
You work with teams, large organizations to use happiness to grow those businesses. But the thing that really struck me is that you're a statistician as well. And so,
Yeah.
like, this is data backed up. It's not just woo woo fluffy, although it does still feel fluffy, like when you get it right. So, tell me a bit more about why you wanted to write the book. Like, what drove you to write this book now?
So I have been working on work for the last 12 years. So previously, before that, I worked in public policy about why governments think about well-being. And ultimately, I moved into work because I was just as critical about how organizations measured employee experience as I was governments measured well-being. And so I thought, well, there was got to be something to be done here. And the other thing, obviously, is we spend a lot of time at work. It's where adults spend their time. And so, if you want to reach adults with a message around living better lives, then work is a really good place. And then there's a third thing, which is this brilliant alignment, which is between the personal and the organizational, which is that we know that when people feel good, they do good work. So that's why I kind of started working in the area and built Platform Friday Pulse first, and then thought, well, probably the best way to really promote this idea now is to draw on this experience I've got over the last 10, 12 years and put it in a book format, which I have to say was exceptionally difficult. I'm not
Okay,
a natural writer, and
well, let's go into that. So, tell me about the writing process, the planning, the writing. Like, what were some of the highlights and some of the great gains you got from it, and some of the challenges, some of the behind the scenes, real life of an author.
Yeah, well, I started wanting to write in 2021, sort of after COVID, and I started working with a ghostwriter because I really, so the people who here on my team from NEF will know that I avoided writing. I would do the stats, have ideas. I was very happy speaking, but I would try and get them to do the writing all the time. And I and actually, and so I worked with a guy called Ivor Lee, who really liked, but he just didn't come out the first bits of it wasn't sparkly. It wasn't, and that wasn't Ivor's fault. I was trying to do it too quickly, and so I just thought, okay, I've got to do it the long way, and then I started to write, and I all I will say is the world is spared my turgid first draft. I mean, my first draft, I think I was really unconfident. I had to say everything where everything came from. I mean, I could write this thick a book about all of the, all of the inspirations and references that I have, and some of them are just gone on the acknowledgements. I mean, there's people who've so uh, transformed my thinking, and all they get is, yeah, Manfred Max Neef from Chile is in the acknowledgements. None of the stories about Manfred that were in earlier drafts got to the final draft because I got into that space where it's not for me, the book, it is for the reader. And yes, I've got a story and I've got reasons why I'm here, but that's actually not interesting. What's interesting is how do we make the world work better? So I had to pare that down, and I worked with Dominique. I don't know if she's online today, but and she coached me how to write, really. And it was a long process, but it got better and better. And my big breakthrough was last summer when I decided that I would, instead of doing a 12 chapter book, I would break it down into very short chapters. And I think, what are there, 45, 46 of them? God, I have to look.
There are a few, yeah, and they're broken into lovely parts, so it's easy to break
47, it says 47.
down.
And they're all about 1,000 words, so they're all easy. You can fall to sleep. I mean, if you fall asleep, you probably still just finished a chapter. It's kind of that idea. And it's one idea per chapter. And suddenly that liberated me, that I didn't have to, keep weaving everything together. I could just go, this is my idea for this chapter, and do it. So that was my breakthrough as a writer. And then it came to publishing, where I met you guys.
And I will say, like, your book is brilliantly put together, and it didn't go heavy on academic. And I just want to pick up on what you said. Effectively, you've written a gift for your ideal readers, and you've taken yourself out of the way of that, so that what you're delivering is value. It's value all the way through. It's useful insights and ideas, and bringing your expertise together with the results. Um, I love that. I mean, that's the perfect book because nobody wants to just read your whole life story and then the history of happiness in the workplace. They want stuff they can use straight away. I think you nailed that, and that's testament to your hard work. And I will say, I'm not going to swear, but a poopy first draft is absolutely normal. That's the clearing you have to do in order to write the real book. So yeah, it's painful though, isn't it? It is a painful process, I think, to
It
do a
wasn't
good
just
book.
the first draft that was painful, Joe. It was the third and fourth. But that's I think everyone says writing is rewriting, and for me it was a condensing. It was a condensing, and it was always trying to hold the reader in mind, like what did they want to get out of this? And I hope I've achieved. I think there's some of my voice in there. I'm kind of like, I've got a bit of quirkiness and humor. There's a little bit of that in there. Not and there is also just, I mean, chapter one starts with a graph. I am a statistician, and that's got a lot of syllables. I know you did very well, actually. You got
I
that.
got it. Yeah, I had to slow down because I've been practicing that word.
I still can't spell it. I mean, that's actually another reason why writing was hard to me, is I'm almost certainly undiagnosed dyslexic. In fact, I said to my mother, "Oh, mum, my mum's 89." I said, I'm finding it very hard to write." And she went, "Oh, darling," she said, "you did have a school report that called you the illiterate mathematician." Really, my parents never told me. They never told me that. I was the really annoying guy at school that was top of maths without trying. That's just, I could do it. And I didn't really bother about essay.
Yeah, you had your superpower. And all I'm going to say is probably by the end of today, maybe tomorrow, you're going to be the illiterate mathematician who's also a best-selling author. So how's that going to feel?
Well, it is very nice to have it out there in the world, and my feeling about the book. So when you write and you're very close to it, I mean, it's strange. I know I'm a good speaker, and I know that I'm good at creating statistical instruments, but the author bit has been hard for me. And when I did my TED talk, which is now 15 years ago, I worked a lot on it, and all I can say is I walked off the stage and I thought I've done the best TED talk I can do. And that's how I feel with the book. I feel that this is the best I can do with a book on this subject at this time. I mean, maybe I'll write more in the future. It doesn't frighten me anymore. But that's a nice feeling because I want to. I mean, this is a moment here today. This is the launch of the book, but this isn't the end of anything. This is the beginning of outreach, of actually trying to get this message out here. The book is a vehicle. I hope it's a vehicle for people to, as I said, have the evidence in one place about why this is important, have the confidence and have some insights, some new ideas around what they could do. But it really is an invitation to experiment. There isn't, I say very clearly at the beginning, there is not one way. I mean, there's not one thing to do here. There's room for lots and lots of different approaches. I mean, my one plea is measure your impacts because people too often do things and they may be lovely on the day, but they don't actually make any impact. So if we're really serious about building successful organizations where people are happy and they're high performing, then you need to measure their experience. Yeah.
Great, I love that. I'm going to ask a question now.
Yes, yes.
Who? No, this is brilliant. Like, keep talking. Like, this is good. It makes my job really easy.
Okay.
Who would you say is the ideal reader of this book? Who's going to get the most impact from reading this book? Obviously, it's going to impact everybody when the
Yeah.
right people read it. But who have you got in mind? Like, what are their challenges? What are they looking to achieve?
So I think there are at least a couple of audiences, but the main audience is people leaders of any level, from team leader right up to head of people, CEO of organizations. And it really is like, the people side of the business is difficult. I mean, it's not easy. And some of the things I write are quite simple, but they're not necessarily easy to do. And there's distinction there, but it's written for people who lead teams. It's predominantly that's where the impact will be because, as I kind of repeatedly say in the book, teams are the smallest system. I probably don't even use this language, but this is what's behind it: is that teams are the smallest system. Happiness is systemic. It's between us, and yes, we experience it within us, but it's very much about how we interact with the world. And so teams are really the multiplier, the amplifier. I talk of team leaders being influencers. They influence other people. And so it's from that level up. But if you're going to do it systematically in an organization, you need leadership from the top. You need the team leaders align with it, and then it bubbles up from the bottom, all of the positivity. So it's doing all of those levels. But there are secondary audiences. I think there's an audience for anybody that wants to improve the world of work. So definitely for consultants, for growth consultants who are just wanting to grow a business, from people who are people consultants. It's definitely a book for them. And it's probably, that they don't know, it's a book for investors because businesses that are happier are going to grow better. I think that will be the audience that most don't realize they need it, but that's their.
Go look at the balance sheet. Look at, like, if you can make the people happy, the investors are going to get that return.
Yeah, yeah. I sometimes do a talk called Happiness Counts, and basically, how you count it. And ultimately, I'm a bean counter. It's just I count happiness rather than.
Well, and I think that's what gives what you've written credence. It's not just like these sound like nice things. They sound like the right things to do. Like, everybody can agree they're the right things to do. You can give the reasons why that's going to be good for business. And I think that really connects this with, like, being able to create a movement of people doing the things that need to be done, whether they're thinking about this logically or rationally or actually, emotionally. They're able to connect the two sides of that. And I want to talk about your cover in a minute, but those two elements, the kind of the soft and the hard, is really evident in your book. Do you want to talk to that? Because that wasn't a
Yeah,
question.
yeah. I mean, it's an interesting terminology, isn't it? The hard skills and the soft skills. It seems to dismiss the soft ones, and I mean, you've got some. Well, you've probably got all sorts of bad roots to that in lots of ways when you start thinking about it. But I mean, the people skills are essential, and really, I think there's two things that are really, really important in the skills of any manager, senior leader, is being good enough at numbers and good enough at people. Being great at both is where you want to be. And the people side is severely neglected. Most CEOs come from a finance background. They understand the financial metrics. Not enough come from a people perspective, a marketing perspective. Marketers are dealing with people all of the time. You're a marketer, yeah, and you're thinking about what motivates people to buy specifically, but you're thinking about it. So, the customer experience has got sort of integrated. We've got customer experience metrics. We've got the very, very popular Net Promoter Score, which has simplicity in it. I have a statistical critique of it, but what it's doing, what it's trying to measure is correct. It's trying to measure whether customers love you and whether they will rebuy, whether they recommend you. And I just don't think the employee experience has been thought enough about. And it's tricky for team leaders because they're under a huge pressure. Anybody here that's a team leader, you're very likely to be under huge pressure. Pressure from above to meet your goals, pressure from below your teams. You're probably not even given a time budget to really manage your team properly, so you don't feel you have the time. You're working unpaid overtime anyway. And then someone like me with long hair comes along and goes, you should look after the happiness of your team, and it probably makes you want to tear whatever hair you've got left out, or it's like, yeah, I get that, but time is the currency of relationships. It's one of my chapter titles, and anyone that's got kids knows that it's not about the toys, not about the gifts. It's about the time you spend with them, and it's the quality of that time, whether you're present or not. And that's going to be the same for team leaders in organizations. So it's hard, but the people skills are not soft; they're essential. The technical skills, if you look at it, there's a chapter in the book about a piece of Google research and what makes for good team leaders. And they show that six of the top eight are people skills as technical skills. And that's just Google, which is full of technicals, but it's the people skills that make the teams fly there.
I
So
love that, and I like your reframe of that. Hard and soft is a really horrible paradigm
yeah.
to look at. It's head and heart, isn't it? It's like what's real and
Yeah.
like is this gonna add up at the end when we do it? Like, are we going to be able to justify it and go, we won like on both counts? We just win on one
Yeah.
over the other.
Emotions, feelings, emotion, the word itself, move means move out. It is where energy comes from. But obviously, rationality, thinking things through logically is also really important. And then where things really go is when you've got the two aligned, and you can go really into this psychologically that probably feelings come before thoughts. We feel something, like if you walk into a room and you just sense something's up before you cognitively know anything about what's going on. And our feelings are there really to give us information about how we interact with the world when you get down to it from an evolutionary perspective. And so they are, at its simplest, happiness is a good bad signal that, when we're happy, we're a good fit for our environment. That gives us energy to move forward. When we are unhappy, we're a bad fit. That could be internal or external issues. But we actually, when we're unhappy, seriously unhappy, we also have energy. We have energy to change things. It's so unhappiness is highly functional. It's not
Yeah,
pleasant, but it's highly functional.
gotcha.
And so there's this good bad signal, and that's a lot about what my book is about, is that
I
good bad.
love that. Well, talking about that, then tell me more about the cover, because I absolutely love the cover. I know it's been inspired in some way, and I'd love you to just talk about like where we got to from your ideas for this cover.
Yes, so
The beauty, isn't it? Just in case you're not looking at Nick, here's mine.
so the idea comes from a Swedish artist called Hilma af Klint. Klint, yeah, I think that's how you spell her name. She was painting late 19th century, early of 20th century, and she had a whole series of paintings where she painted the above and the below, the transcendent and the material. She was really interested where spirit met the material world. She was writing at a time when science was really moving forward quickly. You understood things like radio waves. And so, it was perfectly logical that people were thinking, well, does spiritual transcendence work with waves? It's probably why things like seances were happening. They literally thought there were waves coming. Okay, our science has moved on, but the idea that we are beings that are inspired and below. And so I just took her idea of running her horizon in her paintings, and I put the happiness above and the serious business below. And actually, I know Michael is on the call. Michael used to run Neff Consulting when I first developed tools in this, and he used to talk about how Nick, you go, happiness is a serious business, and how you inspire and you go down. And I think that's been a theme that I picked up all the time, that the happiness is to inspire, but then we've got to get serious about it. So that's where the cover comes from. The colors were sort of like the water and the sea, and it actually started off as being a bit like a sunset, and then we made it, more modern. And I absolutely love it, and people love it, and people say you pick it up off the shelf and you want to read it, and that's kind of what you want. So that's where the inspiration comes from. She is an extraordinary, extraordinary painter. I went to see her in Bilbao at the Guggenheim at New Year, so it was very fresh in my mind when it came up. Yeah.
Lovely. I just cut out a moment there, Nick, but I did catch it. I want to ask you. So there's another artistic, there's an artistic bent to a lot of what you've put into this book. Tell me about the poem. Like, I'd love you to actually read the poem, if you could.
Yeah, so I think like
Well, you
most.
know it off by heart. I know this, but like, I just love it. I think it's great.
Well, the poem, I start the section on teams with it, and Jodie, who's just commented, will know this poem too. But the poem is written by David White. It's written in the 1990s. He wrote it for Boeing. He sometimes called himself a corporate poet. He would take on commissions for organizations to write a poem for them, and he wrote this for the launch of a Boeing aircraft. And the poem is called "Working Together." Uh, Working together, and the artist is called Hilma Alf, A-F, and then I think it's Clint, Klint, for the person asking. Hilma Alf Clint, brilliant. She's brilliant. So look, so David White wrote this poem for Boeing, and it goes like this. It goes, "We shape ourselves to fit the world, and by the world are shaped again. We shape ourselves to fit the world, and by the world are shaped again. The visible and the invisible working together in common cause to produce the miraculous." That's the first bit of the poem. What I love about it is it gets all the tricksiness of working in a team. So we shape ourselves to fit in the team. The team exists, we fit in it. And then the team shapes us again, and everything is very, very dynamic there. And then, this is where the magic happens. And clearly magic doesn't really exist, but we can use scientific language, synergy, but the visible and the invisible working together. So I think of that as the people and the team culture working together in common cause. So they've got to have a direction. We're going to work. We're going to we're going to work. We're not just having happiness for its own sake. There's a direction. There's goals to do that, and we're working together to common cause, and we produce the miraculous. It's synergy. That's when things come together. Teams come together. They gel. And that is really what we're trying to do when I talk about building happy, successful teams. I talk about happy teams, but really it's happy and successful. That's what you want. Because if they're not successful, they're just happy, they're slacking. Nobody wants that. And if they're successful but not happy, they're running towards burnout. So you want the happiness and the success together. Yeah.
Love that. I'm going to ask, just you got onto successful teams, and one of my questions was, you talk about the 7 successes of happy teams.
Yes.
Now, I'm not asking you to rattle them all off now. We've got the book here. But do you want to talk to a few of those successes, like the big ones?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons for coming up with the 7 successes of happy teams is to show the team leader that it's in their self-interest, and to show the organization, that it is. So the 7 successes are, the first one is stability, which is that happy teams, you're not going to have high staff turnover. You're going to have continuity of staffing, which is great for all sorts of things, customer service, for how teams work together. You're going to have less conflict in that team because people get along. So stability. The second one is energy, which is that happy teams are going to be more energetic. I mean, if teams are only okay, they're very flat. In fact, actually, that is an interesting thing about the happiness unhappiness continuum, is in the space in the middle is okay. And that's very dead energetically. And I think most people, most organizations don't suffer from greatly unhappy teams. They suffer from okay teams. And actually, the biggest thing they can do is rise from okay to happy. That is the big thing. So energy is the second one. So the next one is collaboration, which is that if people are positive, people want to work with them. That if you feel good, you're more able to see the other person's. You don't just focus on your own stuff. So collaboration gets better. That's both within and between teams. Creativity. We think of the tortured artist. I've got a chapter on creativity isn't just about tortured artists. We can see examples of tortured artists who are creative. However, everyday creativity in businesses and organizations, and nearly 80, 90% of jobs need problem solving creativity in them, is about feeling positive. Because if you're feeling negative, you're turned inwards. If you're feeling good, you can see the bigger picture. This is the great work of Barbara Fredrickson, that she talks about how positive emotions broaden our perceptions, broaden how we can do things. So that one is collaboration. The next one I call attractiveness, and I don't mean good looking though, maybe, but what I mean is they attract things towards them. So if you've got a positive team, they're going to attract support, they're going to attract talent. Literally, people are going to be climbing to work for you as an organization. Culture in a world with difficult talent wars, culture is your differentiator. That is what's really going to be about it. The next one is effectiveness, which is straightforward productivity, or patient services if you're in the NHS, or pupil outcomes if you're an educator, whatever it is. And the seventh one is profitability. How is that different than effectiveness? Profitability is about the costs and the benefits together. And you could say that things are happier, but it costs so much to get there that actually you can make people happier, but it's not worth it. Profitability shows it's worth it. So those are the seven successes of happy teams. Yeah.
I love your depth of knowledge. Like what keeps occurring to me in terms of the cover is this duality of, people and profits. There's just there's loads in there. There's the happiness and seriousness. There's just
Yeah.
so many kind of like things to match up, to tie up. Then when you get them all working, you can have it all. It feels like from this book, you can have all of the good things. Like you need to just acknowledge
Yeah.
there are two sides to everything. I just really love that. I love how it's
And it's alignment. It's alignment. That's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get an alignment between the individual, the team, and the organization, even the investors, right the way through. You're trying to get an alignment between, people's emotional realm and what they're delivering. So it is about alignment. It's ultimately, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to throw something else just slightly off tangent. So your praise quote on the cover is from the head of TED. Now I know you do a lot of speaking and actually speaking about it. Like the book is one artifact. It's one way of reaching people at scale. Tell me more about the speaking. Like where do you show up? How can you show up to support this as a speaker for organizations, for groups? I'd love to know a bit more about that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why I love speaking. I do. I'm not one of these people that is frightened of it. I really lean into it. I remember when my boys were learning rugby, you could tell who was going to play rugby from age 7, 8. Did they lean into a tackle? Did they lean back? And for whatever reason, I lean into speaking. I don't really know why, but I'm a communicator ultimately. I mean, at the end, I'm not a very technical statistician. I mean, I can do multi-level analysis, and I know my beta coefficients, and I do talk about beta coefficients in the book, much to a lot of people's surprise. But why not? That's what I do. I try and be gentle and explain them. And anyway, I love speaking. And so this is a topic which needs championing, and what a privilege if I can get out there and champion it. And so I very much, when I say the book is the beginning of something, then I hope it's the beginning of something that empowers people to take this seriously. And I think that can come through reading the book. I think me speaking to audiences really, really helps, because people see, I hope, the authenticity behind what I'm doing, the depth of knowledge, as you say, like Q&As. We must do Q&As, in 5, 10 minutes, because I think there'll be lots of questions out there.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to be offered a TED. I mean, we've done a lot of good work, me and my team at New Economics Foundation, and just out of the blue, I got asked, do you want a meeting about having a TED talk? And then there's big capitalists. This is not the offer of a TED talk. This is a meeting about one. Anyway, uh, I passed that test. And I passed the test. I think we're giving a TED talk, and that was a big responsibility, because we were a think tank with no budgets about a very unsexy topic of alternatives to GDP. And I kind of elevated it somehow with all of the work we did, but with the presentations, persuading people that this should be taken seriously. And I want to do this for the next 3, 5 years. I see myself as a musician touring an album, or a stand-up comic with a set, because I think this just needs to go to a lot of live audience. So anybody here, if any conferences you're going to, or you organize events, then please consider me, because this is what I want to do, is talk to this topic and support everybody with the work they're doing. I did one 2 weeks ago in the NHS up in Scotland, and I think I'm really just giving people confidence to do what they know, but also the inspiration to do more than okay, to actually go, can we make this a better place to
I've got
work?
to talk about that. I saw the photograph you sent it me kindly, because I
Yeah.
was saying get pictures of people with books, because we want to sell some books, Nick. the faces were all like happy. They weren't just like, oh, I've done a training. They were lit up, like every face. I really scan those faces. I love seeing people
Yeah,
how they interact. They were all lit up. They were all holding your book. So I was like, brilliant. And so
yeah,
I just add to that as a speaker. One of the great things, if you are thinking of booking Nick, is he can bring books as well. So everybody can leave with a balloon. Everybody can leave with a gift from the party
yeah.
and take
Yeah,
that with them.
yeah, I did that one as a instead of them paying me because the NHS don't have budgets, they bought books which people could take away, which is actually really, really nice way of doing it.
I
So
love that. I'm conscious of time. We've gone on for half an hour.
yeah.
I'm going to throw one more at you because it's made me curious. I haven't read this chapter. Tell me about the ping pong pizza and parties because I love that. I love that title for the chapter, and I'm imagining it might be to do with mistakes people make, but I might be completely wrong. So
Yeah, no, I got the book is in six parts, and the first one is sort of what is happiness, then it's about happiness at work, and then it's the value of happiness, and then happiness as a team sport because that's so important. And then what happens after that is I sort of go, okay, we've had the good, what's the bad and the ugly? What are the mistakes people make? And one that is, I mean, I'm not the Grinch. I'm not against pizza, ping pong, and parties. I like pizza. I used to be very competitive at ping pong. I definitely like parties, but they're not going to fix your organizational problems. They are one-off things. In fact, I've got a bit of data where it's going along. Client had a party, bing, 1 week, and then it's stayed down. And it's actually if you are over, it's a lot of sort of guilt covering by leaders to go, oh, I'll buy you pizza on Friday if we all finish this and whatever like that. So there's a lot of cover up that goes about it. Resilience training is the same. There's evidence that resilience training actually undermines people's happiness and well-being because it's so disrespectful to have a stressful system and then say, oh, you just be more resilient. That really isn't going to help. So basically the whole section is on that, and yeah, pizzas and ping pong don't solve it, nor the slides. I mean, they're fun, but they're not going to. The issue is systemic. It is about how teams are led, how teams work together. It is about that poem. It is the visible and the invisible coming together, working for common cause, producing, if not the miraculous, then at least the business goals. Yeah.
love that. I love that. I'm going to end there. I'm going to stop asking you questions. I'm going to do one more plug. If you haven't already bought Nick's book on Kindle, there's the link again. And I'm so sorry. A few of you were saying, "Where's the link?" I was just sending it to me, Nick, and Angela.
Oh,
So at first, I was sending it to the wrong audience. So hopefully, you've got that link.
yeah, I've got a couple of things. So, people, thank you so much for coming. I would love it if you love the book that you go on Amazon and write a review. That is really, really helpful if you start seeing 5-star reviews. Hopefully, you give it 5 stars. But if you're giving it 2 or 1, put why. That's fine. Yeah, and let me know about that. The second thing, which is a totally new thing to me, I don't know if you've had this before, but my business partner has said, can you ask ChatGPT about the book? Can you write it into ChatGPT? Can you write it in there? Because that will make chat and what is becoming the new search recognize that the book exists. So if you could I don't know, have a little query with ChatGPT or other ones, that's the only one I know, because apparently that will rise it up. Yeah. So yeah.
I've got an idea, Nick. I'm going to load some of your book into ChatGPT and say, "Can you tell me more about this author?" So that
Okay.
it kind of starts making some connections. I'll do a bit of that a bit later, just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Not the whole book though. We don't want ChatGPT regurgitating your expertise.
Well, but in a way, the thing is that actually we are. I mean, I'm not saying do upload all, but I'm just saying the idea is that I'm helping facilitate something that's already happening. It's already happening out there in the world. The world is feeling quite a little bleak at the moment, and there's a lot of things we're not in control of that are not going very well. And I think there's very few people that think the world's going very well. Well, okay, let's scale down to things that we can make better. And what we can make better are our relationships in life and in work. And so actually this is something we can do, and of course it will ripple upwards if it really got to scale. So that really is my
I'm just going to hold the book again. It's beautiful. It smells beautiful. The design is beautiful. And this isn't me bragging. Like this has been a work of
yeah,
partnership. The way we work with our authors. Nick has put so much heart and soul and
yeah.
artistry into this. The diagrams inside are beautiful. It's accessible. So do grab a copy. Like you're going to love it. That's what I'm going to
I,
end.
well, I should show a graph. I'd like to show the first graph in the book, okay, because this is very much helps understand my understanding of happiness. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that graph. It's in chapter 1, and you can see it's like an ocean wave, and that is happiness in the UK during COVID. And I just think it's extraordinary. When COVID was here, we were talking about waves of cases and waves of hospitalization and waves of death. No one talked about waves of unhappiness. But if you measure happiness in a time-bound way, this is what I'm very keen on how you measure it, which is that you ask people, how happy were you work this week or this month? You're binding it in time. People can always give you an answer. They can't actually answer a question like, how engaged were you? Don't know where the top of the scale is. How's your well-being? Don't know how wide and broad that is. Happiness is very specific. It's very aligned with us as an organism. We feel it. And when you time bound it, you get really, really good, accurate answers. And then you get the waves. And so I call that chapter the inevitable and measurable ups and downs of life. It's inevitable things go up and down. And you can measure it to many people's total surprise. You can create measures of happiness. And I did carefully say measures of, because happiness is quite broad and quite difficult. And I go into that too. But at a simple level, you can measure the ups and downs. And that's what you need. That's the most thing you need. That good bad signal is the most important data that you have. So that's how Friday Pulse is designed to collect that. That's what the book is. And that's why I get into the end of the book that the methodology I suggest, I call it measure, meet, repeat, which is you measure your team happiness, you meet as a team and discuss what's going on, and you repeat that process. And that's my offering into the world of like happiness interventions. There are obviously other things you can do, but that is my offering. And whatever you do, I think you should measure it, because otherwise you get these false results. Like maybe people go to resilience training and they say, I had a great time, the trainer was great. So all the metrics look good. But if it's actually making people less happy at work, then that isn't good.
Lovely. Love that. Thank you, Nic, for choosing to publish your book with Rethink Press. I'm absolutely honoured to be the publisher of your book, and to have you as one of our authors, which feels like we've tried to own you now, but it's in a huggy way.
Well,
Um,
that's been a great process. It's been brilliant working with you. And even when we hit one hard place, we sorted it out in 24 hours. So that was brilliant. So it was good. And yeah, then so fabulous. And I would really love to. We've got a webinar here, so you can't share your screen and chat, which I don't know whether that's right or not. That's how we set it up. So um, if you could put questions in the Q&A, that would be fantastic. If you in the chat, you could carry on chatting. Um, Things I'm super interested in are things like what podcasts do you listen to? Who should I approach to see if I could be on their podcast? So if anyone's got any ideas about that, I'd love that in the chat. That would be fantastic. And there is one question in the Q&A. So please don't be shy. Ask me questions, or you can ask Joe questions if he's still there, if you want to ask about the publishing process. Um, so, Angela's put a whole load here. So, okay, I'll go to Angela's because I can see that. Okay, so uh, Nic, on people skills, any comment on the impact of mindset? Okay, so the drama triangle, victim, rescue, persecutor, doing the damage and stuff like that. So the triangle, okay, I know, I think I know it from transactional analysis, but we can get caught in the loop between being a victim, a rescuer, or a persecutor. And there is a positive triangle of that, which is, if I'm going to get this right, the victim becomes vulnerability, the rescuer becomes compassion, and the persecutor becomes assertion. And basically, all things around mindsets, I think, are trying to get people to focus. Well, no, not all. My suggestion is to focus more on the positive. Too often, I think at work and in life, we just go straight to the next challenge. We don't think about what's going well in our teams, and and how we can build on that. So one of my suggestions about measure, meet, repeat as a methodology is that you start with what's gone well this week. How can we build on that? Let's just take some time. It's not a weakness that we want a pat on the back. Appreciation is absolutely the core of relationships. Reciprocity, that we appreciate each other, we feel appreciated, and we appreciate others. And so, really, at the heart of interventions is how do we do more of that? And of course, there are frustrations and things to tackle, and that's absolutely right. But start your meetings with what's going well. Remember to shout out people's other good works, thank them, show gratitude. Particularly us Brits. I saw I don't know how you say your name, Heading. I'm not going to say it right, but say, I thought you Brits were humble. I don't know if that's because we were pushing the book, but actually Brits are quite good, hard at saying often about what we're doing well. So how other people shouting you out is really, really good, and thanking you, and then come to things, the frustrations. And then you've got the positive energy, you've got the creativity. So as I went through those seven successes, you've got the stability. The team's feeling good. Yeah, they've got the energy. They feel like collaborating. They creatively can solve any problems you have, and that is what we need to do together. Yeah. So fantastic. So other questions, please. Uh, James Whiting is on the call. James, hello. And I was right with how I said your name. That's very good. Thank you for the suggestions of podcasts. So look, questions. Anyone got any questions for me? So Paul is asking, is happiness the ultimate goal? And from an evolutionary perspective, no, survival is, isn't it? And there is an evolutionary psychologist, and I can't remember his name right now, but he says evolution doesn't give a fig for your happiness. And our happiness has evolved to help guide us to having a better chance of survival. And also our other feelings and emotions too. So anger and fear about the fight and flight mechanism. Sadness is about a loss of a support system. These are important functional emotions. And happiness is in is, as I said, partly a signal, things are going well or not. But as Barbara Fredrickson says with her theory of positive emotions, it helps broaden our repertoire of responses, helps build our resources. So it's highly functional too. And then I've got a chapter in, and oh, can I remember I think I called it the dynamics of happiness, but that positive emotions help us do two things, which is they help us uh, maintain stability, and they help us drive change. So we have aspirational positive emotions, and we have ones which are about creating stability with relationships in our life. So when I used to, well, I still do give talks. I sometimes used to ask people, what does happiness mean to you? Some people would say contentment, some would say enthusiasm. Well, those are very different emotions. And actually, this is where Fredrickson's theory slightly breaks down in that she talks about how they always broaden. There are positive emotions such as courage, interest, enthusiasm, which narrow our responses because we're driving towards a goal and they are functional. But when you are courageous, you're cutting off all sorts of things, and there may be danger that you really get into. Enthusiasm, someone who's really enthusiastic is not very persuadable that something else is going on. And interest is a focusing one. So ultimately, there's more nuance to it. It's not just a goal, it's a guide. I think of it more as a guide to our lives. And there are some things which are difficult in the short term that are going to bring us longer term benefits. So if we always followed the sort of pleasure part of happiness, we wouldn't get much done. Actually, we'd run out of energy because our life wouldn't feel very meaningful. So, so there's complexity. I think of meaning, and pleasure is a very short wave form of happiness, and meaning is a very long wave form, and we're balancing those two. And yeah, ultimately they're about maintaining stability and driving change. Uh, what can we do for you, Nick, to help you share this passion as all of us? Steve, thank you very much. Well, you already are doing it a bit, Steve. I think it's about, if you like the book, buy a copy and give it to someone you think should read it. It's designed for skeptics too. If you like what I had to say, recommend me into conferences. They often have a really difficult spot after lunch. No one wants to speak. I think happiness speaks across all of the things, and it solves a problem we've got at the moment, which is that there's something wrong with the world of work. And it's not really strategy. I think it's happiness, and I think we can really, really, really think about that. So I think it's about thinking about that and how we can do that.
Can your greedy
Yeah,
book
yeah,
selling
yeah,
publisher jump in
yeah,
here?
yeah,
So
yeah.
because Nick's book, we want to make a big impact. We always do this at launch with our authors' books if they're up for it. We want to make a big impact. That's why it's 99p for the next couple of days. And it really helps to spread awareness, to build that momentum for reviews. So if you do know anybody, share those links with them, tell them it's 99p. That will really help in the next couple of days. That's a really great question as well. Well, a lovely question. I'll just say, Nick, it shows how you've been showing up.
Yeah.
This book
Yeah.
is your gift.
Yeah, and another thing you could do is if you've got a local independent bookseller, go and walk in with a copy and say, "I've read this; it's great." Because we won't get into Waterstone straight away the way that it's published. That will be the way. And so if people start recommending to local things, say, and I think it's an attractive cover, so it could do that. I mean, basically, this is what I do with my life. I'm passionate about this topic. That's why I've written the book. It wasn't easy. There was something that didn't bring me much happiness when I was doing it. And now I just really want to communicate it and support as many people about it. So yeah, um, I think there's stuff in the Q&A now, isn't there? So I'll open it up. Yeah. What are your thoughts on someone who struggles to cope with pressure and stress? Do you think a management or leadership role would be suitable for them? I mean, that's a very difficult question to answer, anonymous attendee. I think that uh, it's not to be underestimated. That running a team is a pressure. I mean, I would really, really, if you are managing people, I would really do check-ins regularly and repeatedly and repeat the same time and get into a repeated habit around how you turn up for your team. And then you create what I call a contained space, safe contained space. It's about psychological safety. You repeat doing it. So if you're going to lead people, reducing the pressure is by having a place for the pressure to be held. So if the team know every week they've got half an hour to talk about what's gone well and any frustrations they've got, they can park them for that time and get to them. So thank you very much for that question. Michael, sir, Michael used to be my manager, my boss. Any pearls of wisdom about how to support happiness in an international team with different cultures? Well, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing, Michael, and you'll know this really. It is about finding the right way to communicate with the individuals, listening. Um, and 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 leading is not all about telling people what to do. I have a chapter in the book which this is going to sound a weird analogy. It's called mirrors and windows. But I think when we interact with our team, think about being a mirror. So when you listen to them, reflect back what you've heard, because you might not have heard it right because of your own biases, your own pressures. They may not have said it very clearly, and they will never mind you saying, "Did you mean this?" And they go, "No, no, I meant this," and they correct you. That's absolutely fine. So you're helping them see themselves for themselves. One of my trainings is as a psychotherapist, and that was a long time ago now. But that was really the main thing. You act as a mirror. But then the second thing you do is you act as a window, and you show them where they could go, that there is aspiration, and windows are partly about challenge. So mirrors are about support and windows are about challenge, and good leaders need to support and challenge. The support needs to come first, the psychological and safety needs to come first, but the stretch needs to come. It needs to come. That's how we grow, that's how we learn. So I think it's about trying to do those two things as much as possible. Stephen, have you seen a rise in yellow washing companies that are looking to appear they're promoting workplace happiness where the reality is different? I've certainly seen people who are disappointed that they're not scoring as well as they are, but I've also seen many people with exactly the opposite, where they're very worried that everyone's very unhappy and actually they're not as bad as they thought and they've got a baseline that they can move from. One of the things we do with clients when we start is we do what's called a culture profile. It's in the book, by the way. There's a QR code for you to follow where you can do it for yourself. And what I say really is that normally there's some parts going well. Those are your strengths, so that's what to build on. Often team relationships are great. Build on that. Go out into the other things. I think that there are some things. I mean, great place to work list is. I haven't called it yellow washing, but yeah, it definitely all sorts of organizations do that just to get the right score. I was never interested in creating a tool like that. That's why we don't have a happy workplaces prize because I'm interested in creating a tool that is useful for team leaders to do it. Julia, how long did it take you to write a book? Okay, I think I was very slow, Julia. I think it took me 3, 4 years. But I had to learn to write. I was that illiterate mathematician. And now I have a style of writing. A second book would not frighten me. And in fact, I've already started thinking about a book on personal happiness. Working title at the moment is either Taking Your Happiness Seriously, How Not to Get Stuck in Okay, or just lead with Stuck in Okay and say, are you stuck in okay? Taking your happiness seriously. It will be years till I do that. Julia, again, what do you think the role of happiness in art AI? I think that AI is very interesting. Some parts scary, some parts brilliant. And I talk a bit about HI, happiness intelligence. So if we have data on that, we can use it. I think that ultimately the feeling of working together and in person is very different than being remote and interacting with artificial intelligence. I think we'll get better understanding when we're speaking with AI rather than the person. I think AI is not nearly as creative as humans. So there's going to be the work is going to get changed, but I think the human element of work will become more and more important is where I basically go. And I think that it will free up some parts of work which are not great. I certainly, use it with my own text to like bring out ideas and help me write LinkedIn posts, which isn't my joy. And then I edit them. So I think it gets me a good first draft. So there are ways that it's brilliant. But I think artificial intelligence is the wrong word, by the way. I think we just call it machine intelligence. They are machines. They're nothing scary. They're not aliens. They are algorithms, and they will be useful. And we are humans, and we have a very different physicality, than machines. We're not just algorithms. We have this extraordinary connection between our bodies and our brains. Our brains make no sense if they're not in these bodies, and we have a survival instinct and a need to collaborate and relate with other people that is very, very different than machines. So I think we are very different, and uh, it's going to change things. Inequalities is a big issue with AI. That it's sucking money towards capital and away from labor. There are big problems, but also it's what's happening. How do we go with it? And I think happiness can really be an important part of that. So thank you for that. Is there a limit to try reaching happiness inside an organization, Alexandra? I think happiness is an optimization game in that we're looking to optimize levels of happiness. At Friday Pulse, we have a yellow, we have a light green, we have a dark green zone. If once you get out of the yellow into the light green zone, you're getting a lot of the benefits. There are still more to be had. But if everybody was super happy 100% all of the time, you'd be missing red flags. Unhappiness is functional too. So I'm much more interested in what in resilience, but not as in resilience training, but group of resilience. Like when you have a dip, how quickly do you bounce back again? That is resilience, and a happy functional team will bounce straight back. An unhappy dysfunctional one will stay down. So I think we need to think of happiness in this very dynamic way. Uh, Thank you, Georgia. Congratulations on the book. I remember talking about when we met in July. Yes, you mentioned how people define happiness differently. How does this impact measuring happiness? So at one level, I go very, very simply. I'm into simplicity because I think simplicity drives change. And so the simple measure I use is how happy were you at work this week? And I don't really mind if that's about contentment or enthusiasm. Don't differentiate between it. When I look at it more deeply, so I've often used three questions, which is how happy are you? How are you progressing your work? Or how stressed are you? Or how interested and stressed are you? And you can look at the sort of negative emotions and the positive ones behind, or you can look at the sort of stress is the opposite of contentment. Boredom is the opposite of those sort of enthusiastic, interesting ones. What do I find? That interest, that boredom is 4 times more important for happiness at work than stress. So it's an interesting dynamic that's going on there. So thank you for that. I'm sure there's a question that just sort of missed out there, but I don't know. Steve, have you thought about launching your own podcast? Yeah, but it's a bit of work. At the moment, I'd like to be guests on other people's, so please do recommend me into them, and I might well launch one later, but it's not the first thing to do now. Speaking live, I really want to do because I think that's very persuasive. Maybe I should do, but yeah, it's as much, we don't have big budgets, and a good podcast take money and time, and it's just a question of which way round we do that. Someone's noticing my inside out characters here. Yeah, they are there sometimes as a thing. And someone else asked earlier about the books. That was my art designer wife's idea. Well, we've only been together like 10 years, and when I first walked into her sitting room, her books were color coordinated, and I was like, how do you find any book? And she goes, because I know the color of every book, and darn me, you could name a book and she would know its color. So that was sort of amazing. So look, we're getting towards the top of the hour. So if anyone's got any last questions, please do well, get a copy of the book, yeah, but recommending the book to people. We can sell you bulk orders for your organization if you want to run it out to all your team leaders. So when I spoke at the NHS, they ordered 300 to go out in the organization. So that's a possibility. As I said, really, I just want to communicate this big idea and build a happier world of the work. And I think we're all in that together. And I hope I can be of use to the community of people, because I think loads of people on this call are already doing this. If the book can be of use, I've done my job. If I can be of use, I'm doing my job. And let's all together go out there and build a better world of work. Yeah. Joe, any last words from you, sir?
Yeah, just the last words, like definitely, like this is brilliant, and I love how embodied this all is. This is your life's work. It is all in the book. It's not as deep as doing this. I think this is why it's so nice to have these conversations, because you can go into the places that you had to cut from the book.
Yeah.
There just wasn't room in the book, and so it's just lovely. It's a great representation of you. I can't wait to see the impact it's going to have.
Yeah.
Throughout the working world. We spend most of our time working as adults, and so knowing it's going to have an impact on people's quality of life is brilliant. And I just want to touch on the fact I love the idea that it's dynamic life. Everybody was happy all the time. You'd just have a yellow cover, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
We'd have a yellow cover on your book. There wouldn't be that. There wouldn't be that in and out, and the kind
Yeah.
of the signals that gives you. So yeah, I just think it's brilliant. I have actually got another call on the hour, so
Hey.
I'm going to say thank you and leave you to your wonderful audience. Thanks for bearing with me, everybody, when I wasn't sending the links earlier. And
Yeah.
congratulations, Nick, on a brilliant book.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Joe, and bye. Have a good call, and thank you, everybody else, and James is saying say hi to Angela. I forgot that James recommended Angela to come work for me, and Angela's been working with me for 8 years, I just think now. Anyway, so thank you, everybody, and I hope you enjoy it. And yes, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. I'm getting to be very responsive on LinkedIn, and I will start sharing bits from the book on LinkedIn. I've shared some bits, but I will continue to do that. And if you've got questions you want me to answer in a LinkedIn post, send me a DM on LinkedIn and say, why don't you write a post about this? Or if you see an interesting article, link me to whatever your posts are. So if you want me to comment on your post, just link me and I will come and comment on your posts. And let's all do this together and in your organizations, in your work. Thank you very much indeed. The book is in the world. That's exciting. And thank you all so much for coming along. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you around online and in person everywhere. Cheers.